macabre, gruesome and horrifying, ghastly, of pertaining to, dealing with, or representing death, especially its grimmer or uglier aspect, of or suggestive of the allegorical dance of death. Prepare yourself for these macabre moments.
This is Marie Samuels. He is Eric Altman, and welcome to the September episode of Macabre Moments. This is a very special episode for two reasons. First, today is Eric Altman's wedding anniversary.
Oh yeah, I forgot. No, don't tell my wife. No, it is my 23rd year wedding anniversary, and as soon as we're done here recording, my wife and I are heading out to dinner tonight. So, thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
Yep, wanted to wish you a happy anniversary, and I appreciate you doing the show on your anniversary. And tell Kathy I appreciate it as well.
I will. Thank you.
And then the second reason I'm very excited is because of tonight's guest. He was the co-host of Darkness Radio. He is the co-host of Beyond the Darkness podcast and is currently a commentator on Travel Channel's new television show, Paranormal Nightshift. I'd like to welcome Tim Dennis to the show. Tim, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Marie. I appreciate it.
I have to admit, I'm kind of like fangirl out right now because I was a huge fan of, well, I still am a fan of Beyond the Darkness, but Darkness Radio. You guys were, I mean, one of my inspirations for, bouncing off and creating my own podcast. So I'm so thrilled to be able to talk to you today.
Well, don't say word like we've disappeared or gone anywhere.
Well, I know. Yeah, please.
Let me clarify something real quick as we get into things, and not to hijack your show or anything, but as things stand right now in the month of September, we're going through a bit of a transition, and as people know, Beyond the Darkness is with Podcast One, but as things stand, we're going through a bit of a transition, a bit of a move. We're moving from Podcast One, and we're now with Midroll, which is the parent company of Stitcher. And everybody knows Stitcher. I would think everybody knows Stitcher if you're into podcasts. So we've signed with Stitcher, or Midroll, and we're officially over there completely as of this month, or as of September 21st. And it's quite the deal, actually. So check this out, guys, if I may drop this on you for a second. So you get, we're changing the name back, believe it or not. It's a throwback. So everything old is new again. So it's no more Beyond the Darkness. We're going to throw that name out. We're going to bring back Darkness Radio. How's that sound? So it's just Darkness Radio now. No more Beyond the Darkness.
Yay!
All right. So look for the Scully logo again. Look for Darkness Radio again. It's the same old feed. So if you were subscribing to Beyond the Darkness, you'll now get the same old Darkness Radio again on that feed. It's the same feed as Darkness Radio always was. But now, are you ready for this? Because you say you were such a fan of the old Darkness Radio, and you remember all those episodes. Now, if you go to the internet, you try to find Darkness Radio and the old episodes, it doesn't seem like you can find them anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you'll be able to.
Are you joking?
No, I'm not
I just
joking
got
at all.
goosebumps.
Are you ready for this, Marie?
Yeah.
This is what I've been doing day and night for months and months, getting no sleep, just hanging over my computer. I've been viciously resampling, rescrubbing, getting the archives ready because there will be a commercial version and a commercial-free version if you subscribe to Stitcher Premium of all 14 years
my gosh.
Darkness Radio archives.
Dude,
Okay.
that is so awesome.
So you'll get Darkness Radio archives. You'll get Beyond the Darkness archives from the last, it'll be 14 years. Plus, True Crime Tuesday that we've had the last few years, I believe 3-4 years now, will be over on Stitcher Premium as well. and that will be a Stitcher Premium podcast only. So we'll continue with the True Crime Tuesday program that we've been doing over on Patreon, but that will move over to Stitcher Premium as well. So we've got a lot going on. So it's gonna pay to be a Stitcher Premium podcast member, because you'll also be able to, if you become a Stitcher Premium podcast member, be able to get the new and improved version of Darkness Radio commercial free.
Okay.
So
you got my money.
Everything's commercial free. Darkness Radio will be commercial free. True Crime Tuesday commercial free. And you'll get access to all of the great programs over on Stitcher commercial free. And it's going to be insane how low the price is for Stitcher Premium. So, yeah, it's a great deal.
Congratulations. That sounds like it's epic.
Pretty epic, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to say the least, because now we can all just go to one place to get all of the great content that you and Dave provide.
Yeah, that was the idea. And, for a lot of years, a lot of people had asked, most everybody who's been a listener of Darkness Radio has asked, where can I get this? Where can I get the archives? Where can I listen? I get emails, I get communicate through social media. Multiple people ask me every single day, every single week, where can I get the archives of Darkness Radio? Where can I find them? And we've been trying to find a way to do it where everything is in one place, where everybody can get it, where everybody can, where it's not corruptible is a good word to use. And we've been looking for a place that's reliable. That is a good way to put it, reliable. And, I was out there looking when we were looking for a good place when it came contract time at the beginning of the year. I was looking for a good place for us, and Stitcher really was a great place to land. So we really love where we landed. Mid-roll Stitcher is just an awesome place to work. So, and an awesome partner to be with. So we took our ball and brought it over to mid-roll. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. And then we also should give you congratulations for being chosen to be a commentator on the Travel Channel's new TV show, Paranormal Nightshift.
Well, thank you. That actually, I got to blame Dave for that. Being the only man in the paranormal to never be on TV, I was quite proud of that, Mark.
It's about time, right?
Well, I was kind of fine being a hermit in my little hole, and Dave said it's about time you be on TV, and I was like, no, I'm quite fine being in my little hole, and he drugged me out of it, and now I'm on Paranormal Nightshift. I joke, of course, but yeah, I figured it was about time to try it. It was. I had a lot of fun with it. And I actually got to go to the great land of Canada, which is right near the Texas border, to film it. And you'd be amazed. I don't know if Eric, have you ever tried barbecued Canadian back bacon?
I have not.
It's delicious.
It just sounds like it. I mean, my mouth is drooling as what you're describing it.
You take and you smoke it for about 14 hours. You throw it on the old Weber there for about 2 to 3 minutes. You throw some barbecue sauce on it. It's tasty.
Did you have a what is that dish that they have where it's French fries and gravy?
Poutine.
Poutine. Did you have some poutine while you were there?
No, I was only. You're gonna laugh when I tell you this. I was only there for 18 hours. I was in and out like a robbery, Marie. I was because I had to come back and I had to tape shows for Darkness Radio.
Darkness, yeah.
They offered to have me there for 2 or 3 days, and of course, like a dummy, I said, "No, I got to get back for work." Because Richard Estep, who's also on the show, also on Paranormal Nightshift, you'll see him on there as well, quite a bit. He was in town same time I was, and I believe Aaron Sagers was up there the same time I was. Aaron was hanging out at a very fashionable tiki bar about five miles away from where I was. I wanted to go join them, but of course, by the time I got through customs, they filmed in Toronto. So I got through customs. I got to my hotel room. This was back in November, before COVID hit and everything went willy-nilly. I got to my hotel room and I talked to the night manager at the hotel, and I said, "What's good to eat around here?" By the time I got settled in my hotel room, it was 9 o'clock at night. And I had a pretty early call time for me. I mean, keep in mind, I stay up till about 2, 3 in the morning. So for me, 9 o'clock is like, pretty early in the morning still.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, they wanted me, they had an Uber coming for me at like 7 in the morning.
Ooh,
Uh,
ouch.
yeah. So to me, that's like 3 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, well, I should probably get to bed early. Of course, in November, there's still Monday Night Football on, and I flew in on a Monday. So I thought, well, there were restaurants where I was staying. There were restaurants right there. It was like right in downtown Toronto. So I thought, well, I'll just probably go across the street and get something to eat. Well, everything closes kind of early in Toronto. So I'm like, oh, I better like get out there quickly and get something to eat. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just order in. So I just ordered something in. There's a French Canadian pizza place called Papa John's. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Not familiar.
No, Papa John's.
Not Papa
Eric?
John's.
Papa John's. Have you
Eric.
heard of it?
No, I'm a Domino's guy. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, it's very French. Very French. So I ordered from there.
I have to ask you, Tim, is that actually what they call it in Toronto?
No, Marie.
Okay. Okay.
You
You never know with those Canadians, man. And I'm allowed to say that because my sister is Canadian. She married.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, I just know it only costs three quarters of what it would have costed here, because your dollar goes further.
Yep.
So I had Papa John's in my hotel room, and then an early call time, and I went to the studio, and the Uber around the city was the most I got to see of Toronto. But the people at the production company were absolutely lovely. I had a great time. Actually, it was the same studio where they filmed Blue's Clues, which I thought was absolutely wonderful. I wanted to go actually see where they shot Blue's Clues, but they said the people at Blue's Clues were kind of uptight, and so they couldn't take me back to the studio. I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
So what is the premise, like in a nutshell, of Paranormal Nightshift?
Well, Paranormal Nightshift, the premise of the show is, of course, we've all had paranormal experiences. Well, I shouldn't say we all, but most of us have had some sort of paranormal experience. A lot of us have them in kind of odd or mysterious places. Now, those of us who have worked the night shift at times have been put in situations where it's dark, it's kind of scary, it's very lonely, and that tends to be a place where it's ripe for a paranormal experience. Now, I myself have worked, although we're going to get to this in a minute, have worked late night shifts in radio. Although my shift did not appear on a certain show. But I have worked late night radio, I've worked late night factory jobs, I've worked late night in other jobs. And it just so happens that working the night shift is kind of ripe for you to have a paranormal experience. And a lot of people, it turns out, when you start talking to people that have worked the night shift or third shift, have had these paranormal experiences. And it's more common than not to hear from people and say, oh yeah, by the way, when I was working this job, I had this really odd experience. And so the producers of the show have collected these stories, and it's a reenactment show, of course, and have displayed these stories for you, and gotten a cadre, I'll put it that way, of us in the paranormal to weigh in on these stories. And these stories are very entertaining, and some of them, and there's a huge variety of these different stories. and gotten us to weigh in on these stories to kind of let you know what's going on with them.
So the intro to the show was I was just totally sucked in by because I also work the night shift. And for almost 20 years I did accounting Monday through Friday 9 to 5. And about a little over 2 years ago I switched careers and switched my shift. And so now I'm working the night shift. So I was like, dude, this is like my jam right here. This is what I'm living. This is my life. Like, I can relate to these people. I know what they're talking about, and I know it's like how you described it. When you work late at night, you're up until 2 or 3 in the morning. You're out, driving home, and the roads are empty and it's quiet and eerie, and you see things that you typically won't see during, normal daytime hours, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was really excited about that. And the first time we saw you appear, it was you were commenting on the story called Clown Boy.
Yeah, it's a story called Clown Boy, and it has to do with a custodian by the name of Alex. And Alex is working, like I mentioned, as a custodian at his daughter's school. And he has this experience with a spirit that appears to him in the visage of a clown. And it actually has a physical interaction with him. Yeah, it's quite creepy. And I got a lot of feedback from a lot of people who watched the episode that they were just absolutely horrified at the story. And it actually, from what a lot of people are telling me, they think it's the creepiest story of the series as of yet.
I agree with that. Yeah, I've watched 3 of the 4 episodes, and that Clown Boy story I think is the scariest one that I've seen to date.
It has a lot of elements of being very creepy. Essentially, and for those people who are interested in seeing the episode who haven't seen it yet or haven't seen it repeated on the Travel Channel. And by the way, Paranormal Nightshift airs on the Travel Channel on Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. If you haven't watched any of the episodes yet, you can go to the Travel Channel website and see the episodes you've missed in the Watch Episodes portion of the website. Just look for Paranormal Nightshift, and you can catch up on those episodes.
They're also available on demand with Comcast or Xfinity.
Yep, if you have Xfinity, you can catch up on demand as well. What's interesting about the story with Clown Boy is that Clown Boy's spirit really is tied to the land of the school. It's not. Clown Boy wasn't tied to the school itself, but to the land and the history of the land. And we see that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say that was part of what made it so compelling. Was you couldn't, like, as they were telling the story, it was like, this isn't making any sense until you figure out why it makes sense, right? Like,
right.
Yeah. I'm trying not to give any spoilers for people that haven't seen it. So.
Right, and I'm trying to go as spoiler free with it as I can too. And the majority of the story has to do with Alex and the haunting and what's going on with Alex personally, and that's what kind of gives you the chills in the beginning of the story is the actual interaction with, the sounds he's hearing and the bumps and the different experiences that Alex is having. Then it is the actual physical interaction he's having with Clown Boy. And then it comes down to talking to a fellow coworker who gives him the history of Clown Boy and why Clown Boy would actually be on the premises. And what I liked about that particular story is the fact that they do go into the history of the land and why Clown Boy would actually be there. But then there's another, and I won't go into the spoiler of it, there's another actual physical interaction with Clown Boy. And then it's a good way of putting this, Marie. Then there's the eventual conclusion, is what I want to say, of what actually happens with the case.
Yes.
And what happens with Alex and his daughter. And sometimes the conclusion of these cases is satisfying. Sometimes it's not to an average viewer. I think and that's kind of with a lot of these shows. I think sometimes the conclusion is satisfactory. Sometimes it's not. I think sometimes people would like to know more information. I know members of my own family watched the show and then they went, okay, so what happened to him? What happened to him afterwards? That's not a good conclusion. like I know, I don't know. Alex and I don't keep in touch.
Right.
It's not like we hang out and have burgers and beer on the weekends and we sit and talk about Clown Boy. I have no idea. Some of the stories have some very satisfactory conclusions, and some of them are left open. But I think by all means, I think Clown Boy probably was one of the better stories of the season.
Eric, what do you have? What are your thoughts on Clown Boy?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I didn't watch the episode with Clown Boy. I fast forwarded to the part that Tim was on, so I could watch Tim and see what he had to say, and then skip to the next part that Tim was on, and that's all I did. I watched Tim. Tim and I have known each other for what is it now? Going on 12, 13 years, Tim?
Yeah, it's almost 13 years now. And I appreciate the fact that you just kind of fangirled over me, Eric. I do the same with any project that Eric's on. I pretty much skip to the part where Eric's on and I watch him. And then when Eric says, so did you watch me? And I say, yeah, I watched you. And I get away with that technicality.
And that's a matter of fact. I sent Tim a message over Facebook. I said, great job on the show, man. I loved it. And Tim did a great job.
And I said thank you. I didn't nail him to the wall on anything. I just he watched me good.
Yep. But you did a great job, yeah. Tim.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate your commentary on the episode. I'm going to have to go back and watch them. Just as of late, the last couple of months for me have been so chaotic. I haven't had time to really sit down to watch anything. So I'm kind of totally fast forwarding through stuff, and I see you on. I'm like, hey, there's Tim. Stop. Watch. 30 seconds, a minute. Okay, they're going back to the story. Okay, fast forward again. So.
I don't blame you. And we all get, I don't blame you, brother. We all get busy like that. I tell you, with the transition from Podcast One to Stitcher, I've had no time either. I stopped on Friday night to watch this episode, and I'd actually messaged Richard Estep, and he was actually Richard Estep. If people don't know, he works as an EMT, so he was actually out on call during the episode. And I said, "Hey, you look good tonight," and on the episode, and did a real good job at the episode. Now, to be honest with you, I had seen the screener of the episode before, but I wanted to see his big fat head and my big fat head and what it looked like on a 60-inch screen. Not gonna lie. And so I said, "Hey, you looked really good tonight." And he said, "Oh, where did I appear in the episode?" Because he hadn't seen it yet. I said, "You were in the front. You were in the front third, which is the longer segment of the three. It's generally the longer in the how should I put this? It's the more intriguing of the three stories.
The hook.
The hook, exactly. Thank you, Marie. I didn't want to put it that way, but there you go. That's the TV talk. It's the hook of the show. So he said, yeah. He goes, "Oh, okay, great." And he said, "Yeah, I was out on a call. I didn't get home till just now, and I saw your segment, which was the last segment on this week, which had to do with a home for disabled kids, and this week's episode was the home for disabled kids and the ghost that was the caretaker of the home for disabled kids." So he said, "You did a really good job with it." And I said, "They darn near made me look psychic on that episode." So I said, that was, I was pretty impressed with that. That was a pretty good episode, pretty good segment. So I said, I'm impressed with I'm really impressed with whoever is editing these segments. Especially with the one that airs next week as we tape this, because they do the exact same thing next week too. They make me look darn near psychic. So I whoever edits these things is doing an excellent job. I know that much.
Well, and for those that don't know, you actually don't appear until the third episode. The first two episodes are Tim Dennis free, which was slightly disappointing. As I was watching them, I'm like, "Where's Tim? Where's Tim at?" But we were before we started recording, we were talking about that very first episode, and the very first story that they cover is the story of a gentleman named Tim, who worked at the night shift at a radio station. Now, I swear to God, it said Tim Dennis.
Nope.
But Eric and Tim are telling me, no, Marie, no. Eric even pulled it up on his DVR just before we started recording, and he said no. It says Tim, and then it says Timothy. And I caught that they switched it to Timothy the second time they put his name on the screen, but I swear it had Dennis afterwards. But I knew it wasn't you that they were talking about, because if it was you, you would have been telling your story.
Exactly.
And I still feel like they put that story, the very first story of the first episode, just to separate you from that gentleman so that there's no confusion.
That's exactly what they did. Had that been me, one, you're right. I would have told my own story. I would have appeared. And two, this is the other thing I would throw at you that I didn't throw at you before we started the show. In all the years that we've done Darkness Radio, I've never told the story about me being haunted in a studio, have I?
I feel like you have.
I haven't.
You haven't?
No, I don't recall it.
No,
I don't recall it.
I've never had a haunted studio experience. Now, the only time that we've talked on the show about a haunted studio experience was early in Darkness Radio when we had Bob Baca on, and he talked about being able to sense that there was a spirit in the studio by a Xerox copier. He said that the lights flicker in that, and this was back when we were at KLBB, the first studio where we were in, and he said that he could see a blue window in front of us. We're in the studio where we were in, and he said that there was a spirit that was in the copy room, which Dave and I thought was hysterical. That he was sitting in the copy room because the lights blinked on and off consistently, and that was him trying to communicate with whoever was in the copy room at the time. Which we were like, why would a ghost hang out in the copy room? We thought it was just the most absurd thing you would ever hear. That there's a ghost in the copy room trying to communicate with people
by flickering a light.
But why wouldn't he go out into the actual office commons and try to flicker lights and communicate with people? That's where the people are. But no, he's in the copy room. But that's where we go to make copies. I don't know. But then it was at that point that he had mentioned a colleague of mine that I worked with for many years, who had passed away, and that he had a message for his wife who also worked with us. And go ahead.
That's I was just gonna say that's creepy, because at first I was thinking this guy was full of hooey, and now now it's getting serious.
Well, yeah, exactly. It went from the absurd to wait a minute, and he started to get, and this colleague of mine, his name is John Lundell, and John actually created part of Metro Networks, which is the network that did like air traffic control here in the Twin Cities. Basically telling you how traffic moves in the Twin Cities and doing the radio reports. And and John and I were quite close when we worked together at KLBB, and he and his wife Pam did the morning show at the end of KLBB's incarnation here in the Twin Cities. It eventually went away when it was sold by Minnesota Public Radio. And John died shortly before KLBB went out of existence. And John had a stomach reduction. And but John was not good about doing what he had to do diet-wise with the stomach reduction. And he had the old-fashioned stomach reduction, where you weren't supposed to eat certain foods. He was famous for when we went to the Minnesota State Fair of eating a big boat of cheese curds and drinking a big thing of root beer and then passing out in the KLBB booth because he had overdone it and his stomach had expanded too much. And the night he died, John and Pam were famous for raising money for local public television, for Twin Cities Public Television. And the night that he died, we had a meteor shower here in town. Well, everywhere. I mean, there was a meteor shower everywhere. But they were raising money for TPT, and they had come home and they had I'm trying to remember how many cats they had. I think it was 3 or 4. And he liked to sit up and he used to sneak fish sticks and tartar sauce to the kitties. He would have a little bit and then he'd sneak the rest to the kitties. And so John and Pam stayed up and watched the meteor shower out on the deck, and then Pam went to bed, and he decided he was going to heat up a few fish sticks, and he was going to sneak some to the kitties, and he was going to finish the rest. Well, he wasn't supposed to be eating fish sticks and tartar sauce, and he polished it off with some soda, which he wasn't supposed to do. And then he was exhausted, and he fell asleep on the couch. Well, he never woke up because he aspirated on his own vomit, and he passed away. It was at that point when we were doing this reading with Bob that he mentioned that. He mentioned the aspiration, that he mentioned John, that he mentioned that John had worked there, that he mentioned that John had done the morning show with Pam, that he mentioned that John had a message for Pam. And he had mentioned that John had visited me in my sleep and mentioned part of the dream that I had with John in it.
Wow.
So, just stuff like that, this is what told me that Bob was the real deal. I mean, we had had instances with Bob too. I mean, we were doing an expo with Bob here in the Twin Cities, and in an absolutely bizarre, some people believe in psychics, some people don't. But one of the things that Bob did when we were at this expo, I'm sorry, sometimes I get kind of amazed at his ability, and I'll stop just thinking about some of the things he's done live, just sitting and watching him. He's doing a gallery reading, and some people think, oh, gallery readings, those are absolute BS, but Bob is doing his gallery reading, and there's a woman standing towards the back of the crowd, and Dave and I are standing in the back of the crowd, and we're kind of watching Bob do his thing. And Bob is talking about, I feel pain in the temple, the temple, the temple, the temple. And he's repeating, the pain in the temple, the temple. And I see a man, and this man was shot in the temple. He's a murder victim. He says he knows who did it. He says he knows who did it. And there's a person who's standing right back there who can answer this question, who can solve this murder. There's a person right back there, and he's pointing at this woman who's standing right by Dave and I.
Oh my gosh.
And it turns out she didn't want to answer the question because I think it was her brother. I got to ask Dave what the exact story was behind it, but she was connected to the killer that killed this man.
Wow.
It was just bizarre. It was just, she's like, I don't want to talk. I can't talk. I got to get out of here.
Oh my gosh. I mean, in that moment, were you just like freaking out?
Not freaking out, but you get the willies.
Yeah.
You kind of, you're like, what do you do in that situation? How do you respond? You're kind of frozen. You're not frozen by fear. You're frozen by
shock.
You don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
Where did Bob pick this up from? How is he picking it up? And
then she almost validated it by saying, you know what, I'm not going to say anything, and I'm bouncing.
Yeah. So, there's
So let me ask you this. Was the murder ever solved after that day?
No idea. She walked away. We have no idea.
Oh, crumb.
No idea.
Yeah.
But, so you talk about work experiences, and have I ever had a paranormal experience at work? Well, I've had readings at work. I've had, through the wonderful thing that we do, this wonderful show we do. I've had readings. I've had unexplained encounters at work through the show, but I've never in a radio studio. I've heard bumps and knocks, and I'll tell you the first radio job I had in Whitehall, Wisconsin, at WHTL. Most small radio stations that you first work at, I shouldn't say most, but they have kind of a dual personality, or the building was used for something. I don't want to say nefarious, but it had a dual purpose. Okay,
I can attest to that, Tim.
I can attest to that. You know what I'm talking about.
I was going to ask you, Eric.
Yes, yeah. I can attest to that.
Right. So the building that I worked in, the first building I worked in, the first radio station I worked at, used to be the funeral home. Okay, and what made it interesting, and why it was not the funeral home any longer, was it sat on the edge of town. And get it, darkness on the edge of town. Sat on the edge of town there in Whitehall, right off of Highway 53. And the reason it wasn't the funeral home any longer was because the home sat there on the edge of the highway, on the edge, right on the edge of the road, and in the back of the house there was a hill that kind of sloped up or sloped down depending on how you looked at it. Well, it also sat on what looked like a floodplain. So when it would rain hard in the spring, or when the snow would melt, the water would flood the basement. Well, guess where they kept the bodies?
The basement.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, golly.
Yeah. So the way you hazed your rookies when they came in to the radio station, because it would flood every spring, and it would flood right up to the door of the radio station, which was on the main level. The basement was on the main level, right where the studios were, and the newsroom. So the basement door was between the newsroom and the studios, okay, in the main studio. And then there was a hallway that went into the reception area and the front door, okay? So you had to sit in the studio right by the basement door, which would flood, and you would hear the water kind of, drip, 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 right? And this happened every spring. And they didn't call somebody in. They didn't have somebody to kind of come in and they would suction it out right away. They'd have to wait like a week for someone to come in, and kind of, and come in, and they'd have to wait for the sump pump to kick in and take most of that water out, right?
Right.
Okay, so it was like a living nightmare, all right? So you hear the water dripping, and you could just imagine all this stuff. And then the program director, who I love to this day, he's Marty. That's my guy, right? Marty would go, I wouldn't open the door and look down there. You're like, why? And you say, because you might see one of the bodies floating down there.
Did you ever open the door?
I did. I got the guts to once because I had to know.
How far up did the water come?
Right up to the edge of the steps.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
So when it was a funeral home, those bodies were floating.
No, there were never any bodies that were buried down there, Marie. That's where they processed the bodies.
But don't they get stored there like overnight until the service?
Right, but that's the joke. The joke is that there were never any bodies buried in the basement. They were processed in the basement. There was a drain in the basement where they would drain the blood. But you have to think about it. It was a funeral home where they processed bodies. They never buried any bodies in the basement. But they would tell you they buried bodies in the basement so that you would freak out and think that the bodies were floating up in the water.
See, that's exactly what I did.
Mm-hmm. So that's how they hazed the DJs, right?
Oh my God.
So you would sit there all night long thinking that a body was going to float up, or some sort of zombie was coming up out of the water while you were sitting there. And you were, of course, you're sitting in this home, and you think that there's ghosts and you think there's all this other stuff and you're freaking out and your mind's playing tricks on you while you're spinning records. or CDs, depending on what we had at the time or what you had to do. Nothing was on hard drive at that time. So, and of course, all it is just water. It's just water coming up, and you're just hearing drip, drip, drip. But it's just, it's just your mind playing tricks on you. It was just the funniest hazing thing ever. And Marty would just laugh his ass off until he got to you at 6 o'clock in the morning, because he did the morning shift. You'd sit there and you were 50 shades of pale when he came in the morning, because you were worried about what kind of haunting was going on during the night. Meanwhile, it was nothing but water.
So other than the dripping, which wasn't paranormal, did you experience anything odd while you were working at that building?
I heard weird knocks and bumps, and you hear the house settling, of course, because it's sitting on uneven ground, and it's an old house.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the odd knocks and bumps and creaks and all that other stuff that you hear in an old house, no. Never had one thing happen. I actually had a coworker of mine who, he had issues with seizures. He had a seizure one night that scared the heck out of me. I was upstairs because it was a multi-level house, and upstairs was where the copy office was, and I was a production director. I worked myself up to production director, and I had like 13 scripts I had to write, and I had to produce 7 of them. So I'm upstairs and I'm writing scripts. And this is when I was working evenings at this point. I had worked myself off of overnights. I was working evenings, but I wrote my scripts on the overnights after I got done off the air. I worked 6 to 10. Then at 10 o'clock, I would get off the air. I'd write my scripts and I'd do my production. Then I'd go home. So I'm upstairs, I'm writing my scripts, and I hear a record album playing, and it's country. And of course, it's classic country and new country, and it was mixed. And so I hear like an old Hank Williams album playing, and it's playing song after song after song, which isn't right. I've got the station on upstairs. So I hear one Hank Williams song, I hear another classic Hank Williams song, and then I hear, and I hear, and I hear kaboom. Just this loud kaboom. Like something hit the floor real hard. I'm like, what the hell was that? And I yelled, Andy! The name of the kid who was working downstairs. And I didn't hear anything. And I hear this.
Oh no.
What the hell was that? It sounded like a herd of deer running through the front of the studio. Well, we had a big glass picture window in the front of the studio. So I thought, well, I'm going to run downstairs and see what the hell's going on, because this just doesn't sound right. Most people would just sit upstairs and go, well, it's his problem. He's an overnight guy. But I thought, something's not right. So I run downstairs. We'll hear, with the old telephone systems back in the 90s, when the phone would ring, of course, they turned the ringers off, and they had strobe lights so that it wouldn't ring when you were on the air and go over the air. And he was epileptic. And he didn't tell us. So he was on air, or about to open his mic to back announce a song. Somebody called, the strobe light went off. He had a seizure. And nobody knew. I didn't know. If I wouldn't have been there, I wouldn't have known. And he went and started having a seizure on the floor. So I freaked out. I called the minute and of course this is before 911 in this county, so I called the sheriff right away, had him send out an ambulance, and I just picked up the needle, flipped over the album, and put it back on. Just so we had something on air, because, as a DJ, you got like after the station first. Then I called the program director and I said, you better get down here because Andy's had a seizure and I'm not covering. I got production to do.
And you had a Hank Williams hour.
Yeah, exactly. We had a Hank Williams half hour while the EMT came in and tended to Andy.
Wow.
But that's about as. And it was just weird because, at that time of night, we didn't really get phone calls. We only had one or two people that called. One was from the Ashley Furniture factory, and the other one was an old lady who called up who used to bring us pastries.
Aw.
Those are the only two people who called us that time of night. And the old lady was in bed, I know that, and it wasn't normally the time of night that the Ashley Furniture people called. So I don't know who set off what set off the strobe, because I would normally turn off the strobe when Andy was in. He could see the blinking light on the phone, but we turned off the strobes because I knew Andy was epileptic, so I would turn them off.
Right.
I don't know what turned it back on.
One of the dead people from the basement.
Probably, yeah. But yeah, that's about the weirdest thing I've ever had happen in that building.
And what about throughout your career, working the night shift as a DJ? Nothing with Darkness Radio? I swear to God, you guys talked about something that was going on in the studio. But again, this is like, I'm in some different universe than you two. Because I swear to God, it said Tim Dennis for that guy.
It did not. It didn't say Tim Dennis for that guy.
Well, you guys cover this. You guys talked about this a lot on Darkness Radio when people have different memories, right? Like, they're like, I swear to God, so-and-so is dead. And the other person's like, no, they never died. They did not die. And they're like, no, yeah, they did die.
Marie, a lot of people claimed, you would be amazed how many people contacted me during the show when it was airing and after the show and said, that was really great that they aired your story. I'm so glad that, they aired your story. And I'm like, I haven't even been on the show yet. I have 8 more appearances. And even after I told them I have 8 more appearances on the show, that's great. Okay. Now you've been on the show. I'm like, I still am going to be on the show. I have 8 more appearances. You're going to see me 8 more times on the show. No, that's great. That's great that you made that appearance. That's great. Hopefully you'll be on another program someday.
What the heck?
No, I'm a recurring cast member here. No, that's great that you've been on. That's really special. You gotta.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh so hard, but that's so funny.
And I kept telling him, it's not my story. It's not my story. That's not me. No, it's Tim, and he's in radio, and now he's gone. Oh, he's gone. Good luck to him. I'm still here.
Well, that's why I was like, Tim, that's why I wanted to be specific, that you don't make your first appearance until the 3rd episode.
Yeah.
And
even though I pointed it out to him, that guy retired or left radio after 10 years. So even if he started in 2010, he's still gone.
Right, and you're still doing it.
And I'm still here.
So funny.
And I said, I even said to one guy who didn't believe me, I said, do you look at my Facebook page, right? And he said, yeah. And I said, what do I do every 2 Saturdays? I tell you that I'm up at KNSI, right? And he goes, yeah. I said, that would mean what? And he said, I don't know. I said, then I'm still in radio. And he went, oh, yeah, I guess you are, aren't you? Yeah, I'm still in radio. I'm still here. So I went, oh, okay.
Well, like I said, I knew it wasn't you because if it was you would have been telling your own story, right? So, but I swear it said Tim Dennis. I tell you, text.
Now the building I work in St. Cloud, supposedly that building is haunted, and there's an area of that building that's extremely haunted, but I've never had an experience there either. And I'm there very early in the morning.
What are with the reports that you've heard about the hauntings at that location? Do they occur at night or during the day?
Both.
Oh, well.
And Dave and I used to do Coast to Coast AM from there. So we've been there.
Yeah.
We've been there in the middle of the overnight and with nobody there. And there's multiple stations that are housed there. And this place, I'll tell you, Marie, Eric, I should send you pictures from there. This place looks like you are in a dark rock cave because it's kind of horseshoe shaped, and the exterior near the production rooms has it looks like a rock exterior that they chose for the walls. It's almost like you're in an aquarium. Like the studios are sunken like an aquarium, and they look like a fishbowl. And then you get to the kitchen, and the kitchen looks like a modern kitchen, and then the sales cubicles are on that side. But then you go to the conference rooms, and the conference rooms have that rock exterior. But the story is that I think one or two people have committed suicide back in that conference room.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know if it's true?
From the DJ that I talked to, that I used to work with on Saturdays, she says it's absolutely true, and she pointed me out to one of the news articles. And yeah, so it's absolutely true. It happened, I think, 25 or 30 years ago. They've been in that building for a long time. But yeah, it's absolutely true.
Wow.
So yeah, but see, I've and when you go back to, like, we used to record Beyond the Darkness up there. When we would go and do Coast to Coast AM, we would record the show up there, and you can definitely feel it's very eerie feeling up there, especially when you go back to the production rooms. But I've never encountered anything. Never had a, but you get the creeps when you're up there. Definitely.
So your second appearance was on just this last Friday's episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
And you were commenting, it was another story about a haunted school. And I thought that was interesting that I'm like, what, are they just going to throw Tim all the school hauntings? Is this going to be
Actually, yes. You know what? The week after is about a school too.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Okay. All right.
I have something up.
Are you there?
Is very. Oh, yep, I'm here.
Oh, you cut out for a second.
Yeah, the week after is about schools too, but it's very no, it's now you're making it sound like I'm the school guy of the week, like I've got something weird about myself. Now I'm getting a complex. No, it's no, but it's all very intriguing. They're different scenarios and different types of hauntings.
Right.
Yeah, it's what's interesting, and we were kind of talking about this off air too. One of the things that there are certain shows that are kind of cookie cutter shows, and the way you said that, it kind of made me sound like I'm a part of a cookie cutter show. The one thing that I don't like about some of these prepackaged, pre-produced shows is that they do come off kind of cookie cutter. The thing that I appreciate about Paranormal Nightshift is, even though, night shift jobs tend to have kind of the same feel, in that you're isolated, you're lonely, you're cut off from the world, there's not a lot of human contact. The scenarios are different. These hauntings are different. There's different scenarios. And I think the difference between Alex's case and the case with the school, with the caretaker,
Mm-hmm.
are almost night and day.
Yeah. 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 I agree with that. The only common thing was that it took place at a school, and that it's paranormal.
Right. Exactly. You've got Clown Boy, which is a malevolent extreme haunting, and then you've got the caretaker for the caretaker of the other school, who that caretaker ghost is wanting to look after the children that are at that school. The disabled children. Yeah. He's wanting someone to come in and continue his job. So you've got two different hauntings there, and the variety there is different. And one of the things I don't see with these other shows is that variety continues. You know, a lot of times in the paranormal, we're looking for the demonic factor first, we're looking for the scare factor second. And we're not looking for humane or stories of humanity in these shows. And the one thing I was impressed with the producers of Paranormal Nightshift is that they're not afraid to also throw in stories of humanity either, which we do get that in this show.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. It is refreshing that there's, it's not all fear, right? There were some good hauntings, air quote, like good hauntings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Eric, you're awfully quiet tonight.
I'm just enjoying the conversation. I haven't talked to Tim in, gosh, it's been a couple of years, I think, and I'm just enjoying Tim sharing his experiences and his stories. I do have a question for you, Tim.
Sure.
And this goes back to your darkness events days and back when you were traveling the country to some of these really haunted locations. You said you didn't have any experiences at the radio stations you worked at, nothing paranormal related, but did you have any personal experiences at some of these events that you attended that really changed your perception on the paranormal?
Oh, absolutely. Where should I start? One of the ones that absolutely kind of not bowled me over, but really made me think. Shadow people. I've had shadow people experiences, and the fact that they don't want to stick around me makes me laugh. I scare shadow people for some reason, one reason or another. They like to run from me. They pop up around me, but they don't stay around me for very long. And I've had shadow people experiences at Waverly Hills. I've had them at the Palmer House, and I had them at Ohio State Reformatory. And each time that I have a shadow person experience, to me, it's still amazing. It's never frightening. It's startling. It's very startling. But it still fascinates me. It startles me. And in a way, I guess I wonder what keeps it going. I think there is a bit of fear based to it that they feed off of. The last one I had was at the Palmer House, and I've told the story before, but it to me it kind of is an amusing story. So I guess I could tell it to you again. Have I told it to you before, Eric?
I don't recall you telling me the Palmer House story. I've heard about the other locations, especially Waverly Hills, but the Palmer House I'm not familiar with.
We were doing a smaller ghost hunt with listeners and at the Palmer House, and we had they tended to be less experienced people that were in this group. In fact, a lot of them were first-time investigators. And I was on my knee caddy. I was having issues with my foot, my Charcot foot. And I wasn't able to put any pressure on my foot. So I'm sitting at this big table in the corner. We're in the cafe. They have that. If you've ever been in the Palmer House, they have the bar area, and then they have the cafe where it's got that lunch counter. And then they've got the tables, and they've got a little stage area, or a little area where they normally put a stage area for you if you're having a presentation there. And so we're in that little cafeteria because there's known to be at least one ghostly presence in that little cafeteria. And sometimes you do get shadow person activity in that area. There tends to be a little boy ghost on the stairs outside of that little cafeteria area. And people investigate that stairway and then the cafeteria. So I'll put some people on the stairs, and then some of us will go in and sit at that little, it's not really little, but there's a round table in the corner by the door. And then if you listen in the kitchen or galley area, you can hear knocking, or you can hear pans shifting, or you can hear some sort of activity in the kitchen. So there's a group of us that, I was encouraging people to, take cameras, or take their video cameras, or take their recorders into the corner, because it kind of goes in an L shape in that little cafeteria. So you've got the main area, and then it goes into an L shape back into the corner. And I said, if you take some of your recorders or cameras into that L shape, back into the corner, you could either do a photography session or an EVP session over there, and you won't interfere with the people who are over here by the staircase and whatnot, and you can do your thing there. Or the kitchen is empty. There are no employees here, and we've been given permission to go back into the kitchen. And all of a sudden, I hear some pans rattling back in the kitchen. And I went, oh, change of plans. There's something back in the kitchen. Who wants to go back in the kitchen? And I've got 7 people with me, all in this, sitting around this table. And everyone went, nope, nope. And I went, what? Now keep in mind, these are paid attendees to come to this trip, right? And I said, you mean you all paid to come up here to the Palmer House to have an experience, and nobody wants to go back in the kitchen and see what the heck is back there in the kitchen? Nope. I said, come on, there's something back there. You guys don't want to go back there? No. I said, we only have a couple minutes. Dave's going to yell, it's time to change anytime soon here, and we all have to rotate out groups. I said, you don't want to go back there and see what's back there in the kitchen? No. And there's a couple of ladies that are sitting there at the table and that claim they're psychic. And these 2 ladies say, I think it's a little boy from around the 1800s, and he's lost and he wants his mommy. Another lady says, well, I think it's a small girl who's looking for a dolly, and blah, 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 blah. And I said, rather than just think, shouldn't we just go back there and see what it is? No. So does everybody have a camera?
That's disappointing.
Well, there's more.
Oh,
so,
good.
So they're like, nope. I'm like, all right. And just as I said, I was about to point out 2 of them and say, come with me. And I said, all right, you 2. And all of a sudden I hear Dave go, time to change, as he does on trips. So they all go to change out. I'm like, well, screw it. I got a couple of minutes before people, come in here. So I got on my knee caddy, and I decided, well, if they think it's a little boy or a little girl, I'm going to play with it like it's a little boy or a little girl. I mean, not bad like you may be thinking, but so I get on my knee caddy, and I can only go the length of the counter, right? I can't get back, but in between the swinging doors, because it's a little tiny area, and I'm a big guy, and I can't, with my knee caddy, I can't negotiate back there, but I can at least get to the end of the counter. So every time we would go to talk back there, you would hear the pots and pans banging back and forth like it was, acknowledging us, like it wanted to play. So I'm thinking, this thing wants to play, right? So I go, I'm going to come back there. If you want me to come back there, bang those pans real quick. And I'd hear bang, 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 bang. I'm like, all right. So I start, wheeling myself over down the counter. I'm like, here I come. I'm coming down there. Do you want me to come down there? If you want me to come down there, bang those pans. And I'd hear bang, bang. I said, all right, I'm getting closer. If you want me to get closer, bang those pans. And I'd hear bang, bang. And I said, I'm almost there. If you want me to come in, bang the pans. And I don't hear anything. And then all of a sudden, right out of those doors, the doors don't move, but materializing right out of the doors, there's like a little 3-foot shadow person that comes running right out of the doors. And it's like it takes one look at me, it like stops, like it runs out of the doors, sees me, and then boom, takes a left runs right through the wall of the the cafe, like out into the night, like through the establishment.
Wow.
And I went, whoa, like it moved that fast. And I thought, oh, fuck, I didn't get it. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to swear.
Oh, you can swear. It's okay.
But I'm like, I didn't get it. And then right behind me, two guys go, holy shit, did you see that? And I was like, I turn around and there's two guys standing behind me and they've got cameras and they run to the wall where this thing just sprinted through the outside wall of the cafe. And they start snapping away. They weren't going to get anything because this thing ran through the outside wall of the cafe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're not going to get anything. I just kind of laughed. But, to kind of have this face to face and see this thing that was probably more scared of me than I was of it. But I was just kind of amazed. I was amazed. I was startled. But I had this interesting interaction with it. Was there a little bit of fear, trepidation? Sure. I mean, to say that I wasn't afraid at all is kind of BS. I don't think anybody would say they didn't have any fear or trepidation. Because, I was a little tentative. I didn't know if I wanted to full on, take this thing on. But, it's like saying I'm going to go to Disneyland, but I don't want to see Mickey.
Right.
I didn't come all that way to see nothing. So you kind of swallow your pride, swallow your trepidation, and you go forward. And you're like, well, that's what I'm here for,
Yeah.
And you move forward, and that's what I did. So, I don't expect a medal or a pat on the back. It's just that's what I went to do. And the fact that it was validated by two people who were standing right behind me that were probably wondering, what the hell is this one-legged guy doing? But we're going to follow him anyways. It was kind of cool, but I have had these experiences out on investigations, and I have heard knocks, and I've seen things like, even at Waverly, Eric, when I don't know if you heard the story about Father Andy Calder, and I stood there and watched a vial of holy water get evaporated down to nothing. As it sat in his pocket, I audibly heard a growl in a group of probably 20 people standing there with chipped coffee at Waverly. I mean, I've heard and seen things, and it was a demonic growl. This was no growl of an animal or growl of a small furry thing that might be crawling around in an abandoned asylum. This was a deep demonic growl. This was unearthly. It was not, it was, I've heard an ovulus say demon, 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 and then smelled sulfur. I've heard and seen some things, but, that have been beyond just a cute little knock or a cute little, whatever it is you might think you've seen. I don't know. I continue to be intrigued. Have I seen the full body apparition? No. And I've had dream visitations that skeptics could question from time to time. And I've seen psychic abilities and had some interesting experiences that skeptics could question from here to eternity. And that's why I continue to question. I'm quite skeptical myself, but I think it's healthy to question. You have to question, if you don't, then I think that you're buying in a little too much.
Yeah, or doing yourself a disservice.
Exactly. You're doing yourself a disservice. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. That's my approach. Is you need to go in being skeptical, and then once you exclude any natural explanation, then you can go, okay, this was probably a paranormal experience, right? Like,
Yeah, well, absolutely. And anything you discount as you know, as illogical, I guess, is logical, or vice versa. Sure.
Right. Right.
Anything that you discount as unscientific is scientific. You could throw out cliches all day long, but basically get the answer that you're looking for. Um, and I've been around a lot of great minds and investigations, and I learned a lot from Bill Chappell too. He's a great mind, a great person to learn from. Especially in investigations. But I shouldn't say he, but it's amazing how much when you deduce, especially after an experience, if you sit and deduce what happened and whether you've had an experience or not, or what, especially when it comes to evidence, you'd be amazed how much you have or haven't had. I mean, and what I mean by that, and I should clarify that, if you've had an honest to God experience, you'll know when you've had an honest to God experience based on. Do you know what I'm trying to say here?
I do. Like, your senses tell you that you're having
Right.
an experience. Like,
A sensory experience is more than likely an experience as opposed to an evidence-based experience, which more than likely may be a trick of light or a trick of pareidolia. That's what I'm looking to say.
my brain was searching for that word too. I'm like,
Yeah.
What is it? Pareidolia. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this, and maybe I shouldn't put it nice, but I get sent a lot of stuff, and I find nice ways to put it, but I get sent a lot of stuff that is pareidolia. And you try to nicely put it to somebody, and God love people. We do search for answers, but a lot of times we search for comfort. Sometimes there is just comfort in what we think we're seeing. And we do need comfort, because let's face it, the world is a lonely, cold, cruel place. And a lot of times we're not searching for answers, we're searching for comfort. And I think a lot of times we turn to people that we would like to, we think we're putting an expert tag on. We really want to put a comfort tag on them and not an expert tag. And we don't know the difference.
I like the way you put that. I like that a lot. And speaking of the word expert, that was something I wanted to bring up really quickly. Is on Paranormal Nightshift, they have you listed as a paranormal expert. And
Let's play devil's advocate on this.
Okay,
please go ahead. Yeah.
Right. So as much as I love you and I love the show, I just feel that that's a bold title. And not just for you, but for anybody. I don't know that, to me, the term paranormal expert is an oxymoron. No one can be an expert on the things that we don't fully have 100% proof of. Like,
okay, you take that side, I'll take a different side.
Okay.
And you present your case, I'll present mine. You go ahead. You present your case as to why you think that.
So, like, I know a lot about the paranormal. I know a lot of stories. I know, a lot of what qualifies as a poltergeist, demonic possession, that spirits attached to dolls or items, or you can get cursed, and all the stuff that falls under the paranormal umbrella. But I've had paranormal experiences. But does that make me an expert? I would say no, because I don't have answers to, I can say, yeah, I caught this voice when I was in this haunted location and I was doing an EVP session, but do I know for sure that that is the voice of a ghost? No, I don't know that.
Okay. Now, is that your case, or do you have more?
So far, that's my case.
All right. So let me throw at you why paranormal expert's not a bad label. All right. Here we go. All right. So I would argue with you this. Paranormal expert is a broad term. All right. It's not a specific term. I would say to you, would you look John Zaffis in the eye and say to him, you're not a paranormal expert? You've not spent hours and hours and years in that field. You have not acquired the knowledge. You have not acquired the acumen that normal people would not know. I could take Joe Schmo off the street, and I could take John Zaffis, and I could say to them, I have things that are bumping and banging around in my house at night. I have claw marks on my back. I'm being oppressed in my home, and I don't know what's going on. And Joe Schmo can answer the exact same questions that John Zaffis can. My answer would be no. John Zaffis could probably answer those questions a lot more skillfully than Joe Schmo off the street. Therefore, paranormal expert can be hung on John Zaffis, not Joe Schmo. Okay, so paranormal experts, and even Marie Samuels, I could take Marie Samuels and I could take Joe Schmo off the street, and I could say, I could take that exact same deal. Just keep in mind, paranormal expert, not demonic oppression. We could even turn it around. Okay, rocks are being thrown at my house. There's this weird smell around my house. Totems are being put on my steps. I don't seem to know what's going on. My kids claim they're seeing a weird man in my backyard. I don't think I get what's going on. Now, does Marie Samuels, paranormal expert, have an idea?
Yes.
Or does Joe Schmo have a better idea?
Well,
I hear what I'm saying?
I do, and I will say that I stand corrected because I've actually looked up the definition of expert.
Okay.
And the definition of expert is a person who has a special skill or knowledge in some particular field, specialist or authority.
There you go.
So I stand corrected, and I redact my statement.
And that's the problem I have with people saying, well, there's no such thing as an expert in the paranormal. That's not true. That's not true. People who have dedicated themselves to, and I would argue, you have a perfectly good co-host on this show that, let's face it, I spent a lot of time in the woods, and maybe ashamedly so, I spent a lot of time in the woods hunting, okay?
Uh-huh.
A lot of people would get after me for that. I don't hunt anymore, but let's face it, if I had a large, hairy creature chasing me, and I had no idea what the F it was, your co-host would be the first guy I'd call.
Right. Well, and you were obviously describing a Bigfoot encounter to me.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and if I ever had an encounter with one of those, your co-host would be the first guy I'd call.
Yeah, same here, because he is an expert.
Exactly.
So, yes, I stand corrected, and I apologize.
So I, again, when people say to me, and I had this argument with somebody on Facebook last week, when they said that, because they said they took umbrage with Paranormal Nightshift calling me an expert. They said, well, no such thing as a paranormal expert. I said, really? Would you say that to John Zaffis? Would you say that to any of the people appearing on that show? Would you say that to Richard Estep? I wouldn't. You know how many books Richard Estep is written? You know how much time he's put in researching the field? And how much time have you put in?
Right. A lot. Just, and Eric too, with, you know, what are you on, 20 plus years as a cryptozoologist?
Too long.
Do you know, when I was putting together this archive for Stitcher, do you know how many hours just in actual programming that I'm turning over to Stitcher? And somebody said to me, "Oh, you're not an expert. Do you know how much programming I'm turning over to Stitcher?"
I'd say over 16,000 hours.
Well, no, not that much. But
it's not that much over 14 years?
6,500 hours.
That's still a ton.
That's so 6,500 hours. Now that's not even prep work for the show.
No, that's just the show, or not including your investigations and stuff.
That's right, but that's just hours of the show. 6,500.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of time.
And I would say that qualifies you as a paranormal expert.
So when people want to get on their high horse and go, yeah, I don't think that, you know, when someone wants to chase after, like, say, Eric and go, oh, I don't think he's an expert. Really?
Right.
I don't know. I'd take those words back. I'd take those words and I make them real sweet because you're about to eat them.
Yeah. Just like I did. Not that I'm not saying you're, I mean, okay. You understand what I was saying though, right?
I get where the layman who has no idea would say that. No,
that hurt.
I know where you were going to take exception to it, but that's a typical layman response. Now, someone who would say, well, I don't think, it's someone who's on the outside looking in would say, well, I don't think. You don't think, exactly. You don't think, unless you're in those shoes and unless you put in the work, you don't think.
I hear you. And I'm glad I brought it up because I needed to get checked, and I appreciate that you did that.
And it's not like I'm sitting here, whining and crying and say, oh, poor me, feel for me. I'm not saying that at all. You know what? People who make appearances on TV and are lucky enough to have jobs like we have and be able to do shows like this, extremely, extremely privileged. Don't get me wrong. There is nobody twisting my arm and saying I have a difficult life. There's nobody saying that. But the fact of the matter is that it doesn't mean that those people aren't working hard either. So that they just work in a different way. So, you don't discount that type of work because it isn't digging ditches or it isn't, cleaning out sewers or it isn't, it doesn't mean that, it isn't, 10,000 hours of doing extremely grimy, dirty jobs. It supposedly takes 10,000 hours of doing a particular skill in order to make yourself what's the word?
Expert.
Exactly. So, that's the thing. It's supposedly takes 10,000 hours. So, I would never disparage somebody who's labeled that, and there's a reason why a TV show gives you that title.
And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that have watched the show that have thought the same way that I do. So I'm glad that we were able to get that cleared up and get a better understanding of why they're using that verbiage. And
right. Now, keep this in mind, and I want to put this out there. I'm not comparing myself to John Zaffis in the slightest. I would never put myself in his company. I bow in his general direction. And I'm not saying that facetiously either. Johnny is... I'm the one who gave Johnny his nickname of the Godfather of the Paranormal. I did that on a trip to the Stanley. So, the fact of the matter is that, there's levels to to your expertise.
Yes.
And I think Johnny sits at the
The
apex
throne.
of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
he is number one. But the fact of the matter is that um, the you know it we there are certain people, there's levels, of course, to your expertise, and but being called an expert is not a dirty word. It shouldn't be treated as a dirty word. People have expertise at many different things, and it shouldn't be thrown around as a dirty word.
Agreed.
So that's where I come from. Yeah.
Yep. What's your take on all this, Eric?
Well, I agree with what Tim's saying, but I don't consider myself an expert because to me, an expert would be someone that has a PhD or a doctorate degree or something to that effect in a science. I think folks are experienced and knowledgeable and have a wealth of knowledge to help share, but I personally wouldn't call them an expert. I certainly wouldn't call myself an expert because the fields that we investigate aren't proven to truly exist.
Yeah, that's.
Let me throw this. I'm sorry, Marie. I'm sorry for interrupting
Go ahead.
you, but let me throw this at you, Eric. Where do you find your PhD in cryptozoology?
You don't.
Exactly, you can't. But if you could tomorrow, if tomorrow Yale said, you know what, we're gonna open up a PhD in cryptozoology, and automatically we're gonna give out some honorary doctorates because there was no way we could do this before, and we're gonna line them up, and automatically it's you and Lauren Coleman and Ken Gerhard.
I appreciate you putting me in such high company.
I think you would probably accept your honorary doctorate, wouldn't you?
No, to be perfectly honest.
No?
No, because I don't consider myself a true expert on the subject matter. I'm well versed, and I've had 23 years of experience in the field, over 40 years of experience studying the subject, but I don't consider myself an expert because, as I said, the phenomenon itself truly has not been proven by science to exist. So we're chasing what a lot of people call a pseudoscience. And until spirits are proven to actually exist, or until cryptids are proven to actually exist, we're simply offering what we believe is the reality of it. And until that's proven, then all we're doing is offering our opinions.
All right, but I'm gonna bounce a counterpoint at you here.
Okay.
You also have people who are an expert on the history of the history of DC Comics and Superman and Batman, but neither of those characters exist. You can't run into.
But they do exist. They exist in a fictional manner, but they exist.
Well, so does Bigfoot. It's supposedly in a fictional manner. I mean,
we don't know if Bigfoot is fictional or not.
Well, you've never run into him. You never run into him in your backyard, have you?
No,
I haven't. No.
But there are stories of him. There are supposedly real life accounts of him. I've never run into him, but I'll tell you this much. Like I said, if I ran into him in my backyard tomorrow, I'd probably be giving Eric a call if I lived through the experience. The fact of the matter is again, it doesn't matter if you've had a real life experience with them or not. If you've had 23 years of experience and 40 studying, that's a lot of time. You're in my book, you're an expert.
I appreciate that very much, Tim. And we have this conversation in the cryptid field and in the Bigfoot community all the time. And folks like Dr. Jeff Meldrum, he's an expert in human morphology of the foot and primatology. And he's an anthropologist. Mm-hmm. So he has degrees in those fields. So a lot of people consider him to be the leading scientific expert on the Bigfoot phenomenon. And he does have PhDs and he has doctorate degrees, and he has earned the right to be called an expert in the fields that he studied. But in the field of Bigfoot, I don't consider him to be a true expert because the subject matter hasn't been proven. But that's just my opinion. but everybody has their own opinions. I mean, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for John Zaffis. I think I would have to agree with you. If the label of expert were to be given out, then he definitely deserves to have that label.
Yeah. I mean, again, like you said, it's everyone's opinion. I guess I look at it as for someone who's put in the work to learn about something, whether it be fictional, non-fictional, or otherwise, to say that they don't know what they're talking about, which is the like Marie pointed out, which is the literal letter of the definition, is kind of a show of disrespect. I mean, even to you, to say, if someone were to say to me, "Oh, well, Eric Altman isn't an expert on cryptozoology and Bigfoot because what has he done?" Well, what has he done? He knows it inside and out. What do you know, other than the fact that you might have seen a program on In Search Of?
I get your point, and it's a point well taken. I'm just of the opposite mind until these phenomena are truly proven to exist. Then there's people that are very knowledgeable and have a wealth of time, energy, passion put into these subject matters. And if folks want to label them expert, I'm okay with that. I don't have an issue if somebody wants to call them an expert or name them an expert in television or whatever. I just personally don't feel that I deserve that title because I don't have all the answers. I'm still learning, and this phenomena is constantly changing. So I can't say with 100% conviction that what I'm telling you or what I've studied is the reality of the subject. It's changing. So am I an expert? In my own opinion, no. I'm always learning, and I'm always changing and evolving as the subject changes.
And if it means anything to anybody, I didn't even come up with the titles that are under my name. I haven't been a radio DJ for 25 years. The last time I actually spun music, I think I won't say 25. It's probably been 20. I think the last time I spun music, 15. I think it was 2005 was the last time I spun music. So, it's been a while since I haven't been a radio DJ. So, because technically disc jockey means you're throwing platters on turntables, yep, or putting CDs into a carousel, or even selecting music somewhere. So I haven't been a radio DJ in quite a while. I've been a talk host and a producer for quite a while. But I haven't been a DJ in quite a while. So, that's probably more inaccurate than expert.
Well, you're an expert to me, Tim Dennis.
Oh, well, thank you.
I was just going to say, I'm still on dictionary.com, and I clicked over to the thesaurus. Mm-hmm. Synonyms for expert are adept, skilled, trained, and experienced.
There you go. Yeah.
So I think, I know Eric is extremely humble, and that might be part of his position in not wanting to accept the title as being a Bigfoot expert. But if you were to ask me, is Eric Altman a Bigfoot expert? I would say yes.
Yeah, I would too. If he wants to call,
I'm an expert on eating good tasting food. I can tell you that much.
Well, there you go. Which I suppose we're
all three of us are experts on that.
I suppose we're getting in the middle of that, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up. He's got an anniversary dinner to have.
That's true. And then some anniversary celebration afterwards if he's not too full,
I could talk to you all night long, Tim Dennis. It's been a while since we've actually chatted.
That's true. It has been quite a while. We definitely need to catch up. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So remind everybody when they can catch when and where they can catch Beyond the Darkness podcast and the new show on the Travel Channel, Paranormal Nightshift.
All right. Well, I'm going to correct you here, Marie. We've gone back. Everything old is new again.
Oh, that's right. It's Beyond.
We're a throwback. We're just going to say Darkness Radio from now on.
Darkness Radio.
Darkness Radio will be appearing on your good old RSS feeds here relatively shortly. As you're listening to this, it should have appeared September 21st, but you never know. In the meantime, Darkness Radio does have a YouTube channel. You can look for it by name. There are some nasty clones out there that think they're Darkness Radio. They are not. Just look for Scully, the good old-fashioned Scully, the white skull with the eyebrow raised, in the Darkness Radio microphone. You will find our shows there on that YouTube channel in the meantime until we've got our RSS feed up with Stitcher. Of course, you can check Stitcher as well and check Stitcher Premium. Like we mentioned, the Darkness Radio archives will be up with commercials for free for people on Stitcher. Otherwise, if you want to listen to them commercial free, you can join Stitcher Premium. True Crime Tuesday will be a part of Stitcher Premium as well, with that Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals included in True Crime Tuesday on Stitcher Premium. But yeah, check Stitcher and subscribe by all means. The great thing about being on Stitcher is we'll be part of the Omni system, which means that you'll be able to find us on Apple Podcasts. You'll be able to find us in anywhere that you pick up your podcasts, all the different systems where you pick up your podcasts. It won't be hard to find. Just look for Scully, the logo, and look for Darkness Radio. You'll be able to subscribe to us wherever you subscribe and get your podcasts. It'll be really super simple. But look for us on Stitcher Premium as well with True Crime Tuesday, and subscribe to the commercial-free stuff on Stitcher Premium. We encourage you to do that because you're going to get all the great programs on Stitcher Premium as well. And Paranormal Nightshift. You'll be able to see me on Paranormal Nightshift on the Travel Channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Central. Of course, if you missed any of the episodes, you can see them on demand on Travel Channel's website. You go to watch.travelchannel.com. Look for Paranormal Nightshift. You can also see it on demand on your local cable systems as well.
And for newer listeners of Darkness Radio, I would highly recommend that you get that premium so that you can go back and listen to the archived shows, so you can hear I think it's famous EVP, It's My Baby, Save It.
Oh, yes.
That was one of my favorite episodes of life. I loved how Dave handled that, and you as well. That was something else.
There's
and just for the.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
go
Tim.
ahead,
I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Nope,
I was
you're
going to say,
fine.
just for the folks that check out the archives, you can hear me actually on several episodes of Darkness Radio when I hosted the Monster Watch segment, and I was actually on the show as a guest as well.
Eric did an awesome job with Monster Watch. There's plenty of episodes of Eric. There's actually, I think, a couple of years, isn't there, Eric, of Monster Watch segments?
Yeah, we did it for several years. It was a lot of fun.
Yep.
And just talking to you and Allie and David, it was a great time, and I was so honored to be included in the show.
Yeah, and so Eric's a part of the cast there on Darkness Radio as well. I've got quite a few years done and ready to upload. I don't know as of this recording if every single year will be there, but I'm going to make the effort. But they will all be up there eventually, I think, by November. So you'll have all 14 years of archives there. My God, there's a lot there. Let's just put it that way. There was a lot of editing involved. You have no idea. I'll tell you, there's only, I'm trying to think, I think there's only, what is there, like 7 episodes missing or something like that? I mean, it's all pretty much there.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great to go back and listen to the.
Yeah, there was a lot of hunting and restoring, and it's been a laborious project, but it's been a project of love too. It's really been a lot of fun, and
Oh my God! You know what I just remembered? When the Monster Watch episodes, the Snallygaster.
Yes, Snallygaster is back. Elmo is back.
And Elmo! Oh my
Yep.
God!
There's all kinds of hidden gems in there, and it's too there. One of the kind of bittersweet things too, as I was editing as well, is some of the friends of ours that we've lost are there too. So it's Rosemary Ellen Guiley is in a lot of those episodes. Father Andrew Calder is in a lot of those episodes. Mark and Debbie Constantino. it was kind of bittersweet as I was editing a lot of those episodes to hear a lot of those voices. So so there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of moments that are very interesting. There's interviews with Zach Bagans before they had the TV show. It was shortly after the
documentary.
Shortly after the documentary before the TV show. There's moments with Grant and Jay before, actually after the first season, before the second season of Ghost Hunters. Just stuff that will kind of blow your mind. I mean, it's literally the time capsule of the paranormal, which you go back and you listen to it and you think, wow, the fact that it's just all there and you're listening to it, and even the broadcasting styles have changed quite a bit. So it's very interesting to listen to.
Well, congratulations on bringing Darkness Radio back. Congratulations on being on the Paranormal Nightshift, and thank you so much for being on the show tonight. My gratitude is just overfloweth.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. And happy anniversary, Eric.
Thank you very much. My wife's kind of upstairs waiting for me, so
it's
dinner time.
All right, yes. We'll let them go have their anniversary. Thank you all for tuning in, and until the next episode, stay scared.